Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report. Wherever you get your podcast, you watch it on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media. That's Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. And I have a story up now about Sam Howell and dealing with all the sacks, how he's dealt with it, how he's processed it, but also getting some other perspectives on what it's on various aspects and angles to it and how it's been improving and why. So that's up on ESPN.com right now. I'm going to get into that. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But first, one other thing is stick around at the end because I have an interview with Terry McLaurin that I think you'll enjoy listening to. We talked about 6-7 minutes about how and then how things have been going for the past game, et cetera. And I think you'll be interested in hearing that. So I'll have that in a couple minutes. Before that, I get to that point, though, a couple of things. Let's start with the injuries from Wednesday's practice. There are a handful of DNPs. John Allen, vet rest day. Alex Armah, hamstring. Kendall Fuller, vet rest. Antonio Gibson, toe. James Smith-Williams, hamstring. And clearly there's concern there. And then Benjamin St. Juste, illness. So with Gibson, now they did put in a waiver claim for running back Michael Carter. I was told it's not related to Gibson's toe. It's more that they just thought Carter would add to having someone else as a true third down back and just kind of add some depth there. My sense is that Gibson will play Sunday. It could come down to a game time decision, but I would think that he would. And right now, as I talk right now, I would expect him to play. But again, it may just wait. They may wait till Sunday to make that official or to make sure. So now let's get to my sack story on Howell, and I'm just going to talk about that for a couple minutes, and then a little bit about Sam, because a lot of this stuff right now is about Howell and his development, and that's obviously been in a not so good season. It's been the number one best development for the franchise is Sam Howell. So I wanted to write this because he's obviously on pace to set an NFL record for quarterback getting sacked the most. He's only 2 away from setting the franchise record for most sacks, or for the quarterback getting sacked the most. And not what you want to have, but after 7 games, he was on pace to be sacked 97 times. Now after 10, he's on pace to get sacked, I think it's 80 times. So that's a dramatic improvement, and that shows you where he can get to and where he is getting to. And I think that highlights his progression. I think this is where this is why I think these next 7 weeks are important for him to see if this continues against some really good pass rushes. Not all up to him, but he is a big part of that. And if he can limit that, then that's a good sign for him going forward beyond this year. So a lot of some of the stuff we looked at too, I had the analytics department for ESPN give some numbers and the sack percentages. So, and we only have for ESPN, the sacks only go back. These sack percentage only goes back to 2001. So since 2001, of quarterbacks who had thrown minimum 200 dropbacks in their first 2 years, he is 12th on the list of quarterbacks with the highest sack percentage. It's not a great list, folks, and that's why it's important to be off that list. It's why it's important to limit these sacks. In addition to the obvious, protect the body, et cetera. Guys who get sacked like this don't last that long. And of these top 12 players who recorded at least 200 dropbacks in years 3+, all had a sack rate of 7.5% or higher. And again, I think that would be more acceptable for Howell, to be honest, because that's Russell Wilson territory. I think he could be okay with that. But you don't want to be on this list. So I'm going to read you. He's right now 12th on the list at 10.2%. Here's the list, starting from number 1, Andrew Walter, Josh McCown, Chad Hutchinson, Justin Fields, Cody Kessler, Kellen Clemens, Mike McMahon, David Carr, Josh Rosen, JP Lozman, and then Charlie Fry. This is not a distinguished list. So it's not like there's these great young quarterbacks. Other guys that, who may have been sacked a lot, their percentage though was lower because more pass whatever. But that's why. But the good thing for Howell is over the last 3 games, that sack percentage is 4.6. That's fantastic. So if he can continue in that range, even if it gets up to 6, even 7%, that's okay. you just don't want to live in that 10% territory because historically it just doesn't work out for you. So that's why it's a good thing for him. And then his sack ratio, the ratio of times to sacks to pressure ratio over the last 3 games is 0.17. Before that point, it was like 0.32 or something like that. So that's another dramatic improvement. And that speaks to how he's playing. And it's not just, it's the protection's been better. Tyler Larson's been more stout inside. Nick Gates is a better athlete, can move better, but they haven't been utilizing that as much as I think they thought they would when they signed Nick Gates. So you need someone who's a little bit more stout in the middle. That's Tyler Larson. And I think that has definitely helped. And he's 30 pounds heavier. That's why it's a big deal to have him inside there. But it's also about this. This also speaks to the improvement. And by the way, for the story, I talked to Kurt Warner, talked to Clyde Christensen, who coached Andrew Luck, Jameis Winston, guys who got sacked a lot early in their career. Kurt Warner had a high percentage at one point in the 8.5. He had over 12 one year. That's not good. But then he finished strong. It was his last 3 years in Arizona. I think it was like in the 5.5 and lower. That's really good. And that's where his point. And first of all, he's a big fan of Howell's, and felt like, he has gone from being can he be a bona fide starter in the league to can he be special? And the special part comes with consistency. Not there yet. It's only been 11 starts for him, but he has shown a lot of good things that guys are taking notice of. When I talked to Dan Orlovsky from ESPN, he said he feels like he's as an aggressive, a deep ball thrower as we have in the NFL. So, and I think one thing that Warner really liked is what he had is the desire to throw the ball downfield. Is like, you can't coach that into somebody. You can limit some of that. You can reduce some of that and be smarter with it, but you can't turn someone into a more willing downfield. It's hard to, let me say it's a lot harder to turn someone into that because it's a mindset. And you want to be somewhere between the Rex Grossmans, who are over here, and the John Becks who are over here. But I think Howell is certainly much closer to Rex Grossman in terms of that mentality, wanting to attack, but it feels like he's definitely smarter about how he goes about it and when he wants to do it. Because there were plays the other day, and I talked about this on the film review, where he's checking down and you look at it and say, if you had just stayed with this, you've got a 20-yard completion or 15-yard, whatever. But he's checking down. It's like, not going to argue with that kid getting a 3 or 4 yard gain on that, because he's going to take that when he knows it's there. And that's the difference. So you want to get more of those downfield things because you want the chunk plays. But I think for him it's also about avoiding the negative plays, which they were getting way too many of before. And in that story, every time if they have a sack if there's a sack on a drive, you go, you're scoring, teams average like 1.8 points per drive in the NFL. It's like 1.0 point per drive when you get a sack. So, and when you get sacked, you're basically costing yourself like 1.4 points, per drive, whatever. So it's in other words, it has an impact. And I think you knew that. That's why it's important for him to take care of it. But Sam also told me that, he doesn't feel it after a game. He said he felt worse before, like in high school or even in college when he run 20 or 30 times a game. It's like after NFL games, he feels great. So that's a good sign for him. But you also, as Warner said, you can't feel like young people sometimes feel like they're invincible with it. So you have to learn how to take care of that. So, because you want to last. It's a 17 game season. You want to make sure Howell's done a good job of that. Anyway, he's getting a lot better, and that's the point. And that's why I think Sunday is such a great test. I'm really curious to see how this goes for, I don't care how bad the Giants are, but it's that defense they're facing and the way Wink Martindale tries to attack him and they attacked him in the first game. That's what I'm curious to see, because this is going to be a good game to measure that growth and the improvement, because you don't want, if he gets sacked 6 times again, it's like, but if they can limit it, he's getting the ball out and the game plan in the first half is stronger, then I think you can say like this offense is starting to come along here, and he is starting to come along. And again, I think my thoughts on this. I think the kid's a good quarterback. To me, it's always just a matter of, to what level can he get to? And that's what we don't know. And there's a lot of anointing going on right now. And, you kind of have to slow your roll because it's only been 11 starts. It's a lot of good things to like about this. He's done a terrific job. And again, I've said this, like if you had told me the scenario before the season, Sam Howell is doing this, I would say, oh, they're probably 6-4, maybe even 7-3, because that seems a little bit quicker. 4-6, defense. The other part is, yes, and I know people bring up he's leading the league in passing, and that's true. That's a good thing for him. Put it in context, though, because he does have, CJ Stroud is the second leading in terms of yards thrown in the NFL. He's also played one fewer game and has 80 fewer pass attempts than Howell. So these guys throw the ball an awful lot, and he's played the 10 games. Tua is third on that list, and and CJ's only like 100 and some yards behind him. Tua's about a little bit less than that, a little bit more behind him than CJ, obviously, but he has one fewer game and 90 fewer pass attempts. So and I don't even care about like all that. I think the fact that he's progressing is the key, whether he ends up leading the league in yards or he's third or fifth. The kid is progressing, and that's what you want to see. And he's playing with confidence. And that's one of the things that he talked about in his press conference today, was that he felt like he is playing with more confidence. And you can see it when you start making some of those plays he's making. You can tell like this is a kid going back to who he is, or getting to who he is as a player. And there's still a ways to go. And I'm going to talk to Terry about some of that. You'll hear that in a minute. But there's still a ways to go with it. But it's that progression. When you start playing with confidence, it's those plays to Brian Robinson that occur. It's the plays that happen against the Patriots that occur. And Terry talks about one play against the Patriots that he felt like it was something different than what happened early in the year on a throw. And it showed to him some of that progression. And that's a good thing. So there's a lot to build on. Whether, again, I just told you to contextualize the passing yardage. That's fine. It doesn't mean it's somehow a less or worse year or a better year. He's having a good year. He's becoming a good quarterback. Again, it's just the level to which he gets to is the only key. And I also, we talk about this every week about his attitude, and somebody asked him about the attention he's getting and all that. And his point was, we're not winning enough. And it's funny because after that game on Sunday, it was a crushing game for that team. And there was a lot. I mean, it was a crushing game. He was the last one to take his jersey off on Sunday in the locker room. He was there for a while. He's talking to some of the coaches, talking to some of the linemen. It took him, and he sat in his locker for a while. The kid cares. So, and you can see, and it's why that comes across when he answers questions. And there have been guys who do that as performative theater in the past. This isn't him. This is who he is. And I think that's, like I said, that bodes well for this franchise. And, so I think that's good. And he also talked about his relationship with Eric Bieniemy, how that's progressing, and how, they talk a lot. He likes the communication that has developed there. And I've talked to some other players who said that they talk to Bieniemy like once a week, just going over game, whether it's, I don't know necessarily the game plan, but just various things relating to the game plan, whatever. And I think that's a good thing, because I think that's something that's relatively new over the last several weeks. So but it shows you how this offense and how everything is developing in that area. And I think, again, for Howell, I think that's a really good thing. And I think the more he and Bieniemy, get that time together, the more they start thinking, the more he's going to anticipate some of the calls or understand why something is being called. And, I think that's a good thing. And so it allows him to then play with a little bit more confidence and understanding, maybe even be a little bit more vocal about what he likes, doesn't like, et cetera. And I think that's going to help this offense. So anyways, I just wanted to get on that. And this is a good stretch for Howell. And I think it's a really good test coming up. And I like where this kid is going. There are plays the other day where you say, again, did you get rid of it too soon? Maybe a little bit, but man, he does go down the field. If he wasn't attacking the checkdowns that you could hold the ball a little bit more for, would bother you more, but that's not what's happening. I will say one play I asked him about, and I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and just an example of the play. And I don't know if I talked about it the other day, maybe on the live stream with Bram, but there was one play early in the game. They had already had the lead, and you'll see the play, or you'll see actually, by the way, and people, just as a reminder, I'm not allowed to put video up there. So, people ask, I cannot put video up there. It's NFL rule. If you're seeing other people do it, they probably shouldn't be doing it. I'm not allowed. I work for ESPN. I'm not going to jeopardize that by putting up video. So, but anyways, that to explain it. So on this play, there's a two deep look, and you have McLaurin and Curtis Samuel on the right side. There's three receivers on that side, but they're kind of close together. And Curtis runs at the backside safety, and just cutting out that occupies him. McLaurin is running a deep post. It is there. The problem is there's a couple of things with it. There was a little bit of pressure inside. Cosme got pushed back a little bit, but then Howell also, when you look at the end zone angle, you see him dip his eyes just a little bit. And so he wasn't quite sure if McLaurin was still going to get there. So that's one thing there. And listen, his eyes have been great. It's just it's one particular time he saw that and he kind of dipped and he gets his eyes right back up. But sometimes you do that and you lose sight of some things. The other thing that the coaching point too is that based on the way they had the protection, he should have known in the future, he would know to slide a little bit to his left. That would have given him the vision to then hit McLaurin on that one. And it's fact, because you heard Ron Rivera, if you watch his press conference at all today, talk about like there was a play where he came back to the sideline and asked about it. That was the play. So he came back to the sideline and he asked Tavita Pritchard, did the safety bite? And the answer was yes. He's like, shoot. And he thought and I think he knew that was going to happen, but he just, because you lose that vision for a second and because he stepped to the right instead of the left, then the chance for the big play was gone. That happens. Like you could do that with every quarterback, every game about like a particular play that didn't work. So it's not about like poking holes in a game. It's just one of those, oh, he had a really good game and it could have been even better if you do that. Now on this play, he ends up checking it down to Gibson. They get 3 or 4 yards. It wasn't a sack. So earlier in the year, those misses were resulting in negative situations. This was a missed opportunity, but they still got positive yards on the play because he did get out of it and he did make a throw to Gibson. So like that's a difference in where this kid is going. And you can see when he knows, when he has the protection, when he's a better feel for things right now. And that's a really good step in his growth. The other one I want to talk about is Emmanuel Forbes. Has not been suspended. Would not expect that. I think, they certainly talked to the league about him being ejected. But the one thing I'll say with him is I think the shame of it for them is I think they were I think they liked the game plan they had with him against DK Metcalf. And I know there's a size differential. It's not about the size. They were going to use, there was a play early in the game where Forbes was on him and he's not going to jam him. Emmanuel Forbes isn't going to jam DK Metcalf and hurt him. AJ Brown is more physical than DK Metcalf. And that's, when you talk to people here, that's the feeling, right? So, and DK is certainly a physical guy, but they felt like AJ Brown is more. And they, some of the issues that Emmanuel Forbes had against Brown was not about the physical aspect. It was about the mental aspect of the game. And it was about playing your help, leverage, and everything else, right? And falling for the wrong clues and watching falling for a little stutter step double move, which in a situation where you're not supposed to, right? So little things like that. So, but it wasn't about the physical play as much as it was that, although in the one game, they felt like AJ Brown shoved him. But anyways, there's a play early in the game where Forbes does a nice job, is in press coverage against Metcalf. Then has a little bit of a trail technique, but because he's playing to the safety help over the top, a really good job. So I think they were excited to see, they liked the game plan they had with him in there, and then it got thrown out because of the ejection. So he still has a ways to go. I think the feeling is that there was some habits created in college because he was very good at certain things that aren't helping him in the NFL. And that's what he's going to have to get out of him. But if he does, the kid can still be a good player for them at some point. And, it's funny because I think they like how Quan Martin is starting to develop too. How much he'll play, I don't know, but they certainly are starting to get him in the game a little bit more. So they need those guys to contribute down the stretch and become big helps for them down the stretch and in the future. Anyways, just want to pass that along. That's it from me. Now, here's my conversation with Washington Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin, talking about Sam Howell and a couple other things regarding McLaurin. Like, what progress have you seen from Sam?
Yeah, I think, like I was just saying, I think his ability to take, I wouldn't even necessarily call them mistakes, but like coaching points or things he can improve on and apply them to the next week is extremely impressive to me, to see his ability to take things that he needs to improve on, and you see it showing up the next game. So whether it's getting the ball out of his hands quicker, finding his check downs, he's doing a great job of that. Keeping his eyes down the field for scramble drill to give us opportunities to get open down the field, he's doing a great job of that. And really he's taking what the defense gives him as well. But also when we have those opportunities like the play to Deami, where he has to make some tight window throws, he's not shaking at all to make those throws confidently. I think that's a testament to what he's seeing out there. You could tell he's really comfortable in his preparation.
Are you surprised? Because he went through a lot with a lot of the sacks.
Yeah.
It can rattle a young guy.
Definitely.
It doesn't seem to have rattled him
right.
at all. And he's coming out of that making those kind of plays.
Right. I think that's huge. I think that's a testament to his toughness, his confidence in the guys he has around him, and he's been somebody who's never shown the tendency to flinch. And I think for a guy who has had some sacks and who doesn't have a lot of experience to continue to sit back there and make big time throws I think it really bodes well for his future.
What, like for you, when you're because you've been through a lot with all this,
yeah,
do you look at it and say, got a guy I can build with? Are you at that point?
I definitely think he's showing some things where I feel like he really helps our whole receiver group in some areas of making plays down the field. Again, when there's some tight window throws, we have to be expecting that ball's going to be there and it's going to be on the money. And I think he's somebody that we can continue to build around and help, and somebody I think who could really have a very successful future because his ability to learn from his mistakes, stay confident, and not flinch. And I think his preparation really speaks to the level of how much he cares about his game.
Has he surprised you at all in any way?
Honestly, I think what kind of surprised you is his ability just to continue to stand in there. And again, we've had some sacks, we've had some pressure, but he stands in there like it never happens. And I think it surprises me because not just that he's young, but like I think any quarterback who has a lot of pressure in their face or is getting hit around or sacked, they may be a little gun shy, or they may be afraid to make those tight windows throws, those big throws with the game on the line. And he's not afraid of the moment, and he's not afraid to put the team on his back per se and run for first downs and run guys over. He's converted some big second and long, third and longs for us, and when he continues to build like that, I think again, he's only going to get better from there.
For you, when you get those 4th and 1 calls, and you know you're getting the ball like that, how much do you like that? Because like that's got to be.
Yeah.
And I know you've made those kind of catches.
Definitely.
Like, it's 4th and 1. You know it's going to you.
Definitely.
You've got to be patient. Like, what do you like about those situations?
Yeah, I think it's. I think it points to the trust that my teammates and the coaches have in me to make those plays in those situations. For myself, I just try to stay ready throughout the entire game. Obviously, I want to try to stay involved in the game plan for 4 quarters, and so you have a rhythm when you're going into those type of situations. But if you want to be a top receiver in this league, you got to be able to make those plays when your team's relied on you. And it's good to be put in those situations and to be able to come through for your team. And I look forward to having those opportunities going forward.
So after the Giants game, you were obviously kind of, I would say, very vocal in your way. You got a point across. Mm-hmm. Have you seen things change since then at all for you or anything? Or?
Yeah. To a certain degree, I think, I've had some red zone targets over the last few weeks that we just haven't quite connected on. I think that's the part that's
you guys were close on the one last week.
Yeah, it's just that could be frustrating as a receiver, and but at the same time, just to have those opportunities, I know you're going to connect on them at some point. And again, I think we're still young in this offense. Sam and I's connection is still growing, and I have confidence that we'll both connect on those more and more as the season goes on. But just the ability to get more opportunities down the field, to be able to kind of have a full route tree where guys have to cover me in the slot from a tight split, one-on-one. I think that really helps my game to be able to be in control of what I'm doing.
You guys had the play the other day where you had the post.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get it to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
about?
Those
are the plays.
I love that. Like the design was really good.
Yeah.
But like that's one where it's like, is that
exactly?
And I know like there's some pressure on him too. So like, do you talk to him after a play like that to go over anything, or does he talk to you about that, or is it just like, hey, sometimes an opportunity's not there?
I think it's more so of that. I think in certain instances, like we have a few plays I think will come up this week where it's similar to some plays that we ran in previous weeks, and I just want to make sure we're clear on where the catch point is. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is where I see my angle being. This is where he sees where he thinks he's going to throw the ball, where the catch point is going to be. I think that's extremely important because I think I trust myself to get open. He knows I'm going to get open, but to finish the play, you have to be on the same page of where the angle is going to be, what kind of ball he's going to throw, and obviously that's predicated on a lot of other things. But sure. I think the more and more him and I communicate those instances where we're seeing the same things on angles, I think that's when you really get to see those big plays. Are you getting
there with that, you think? Because I know we've talked about that before. The Atlanta game, there's some examples.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's progressing that way?
Definitely.
It's a hard thing. It's an up and down thing.
It is, because every game you're not going to have those opportunities for it to come up. But I think that third down against the Patriots, it was the same route where we missed against Atlanta, and he threw it high, and I caught it, and I dragged my toe, and I came up to him. I'm like, man, those are the little things where you can see again, like he misses it the first time, and we talk about it, and the next play, it's right where it needs to be. And I know we just barely missed the one against New England where he may have saw it a little late, but we're going to have other plays that come up where I'm fast, man. Just throw it across the field, and I'll run it down.
Broke it up.
Yeah,
so it was just a touch late.
Exactly. And so if he could just see those opportunities along with the one where he had somebody in his face, when we start connecting on those, man, I think it's when things take off.
It feels like it's close.
It is. It's close, for sure.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Terry for taking a few minutes to chat with me, and thanks to you, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back on Friday/Saturday, keys and a prediction for the Commanders Giants game on Sunday. Talk to you next time.